UK, with everything that's going on over there, who is Tommy Robinson? Elon Musk keeps retweeting things about Tommy Robinson. Piers Morgan had a different position to take about Tommy Robinson. I think Elon and Piers had a back and forth. Elon talked about his brain hasn't had an upgrade for many years. Piers Morgan retweets that comment and says, hey, why don't we have a podcast together so you can help me upgrade my brain? They're going back and forth. Okay, now this is Tommy Robinson getting arrested. Rob, if I'm not mistaken, this is in Canada. He's getting arrested. Let me first read who Tommy Robinson is to the story that we have from Forbes, and then we can get to this. So Tommy Robinson Elon Musk has reportedly posted in support of British far-right activist Tommy Robinson. Now, this is Forbes saying that, pinning free Tommy Robinson to the top of his X profile and sharing a dozen posts on the subject in one day. Musk previously reinstated Robinson's account after it was banned and has intensified his backing, coinciding with increased involvement in UK's politics following Donald Trump's election win. Tommy Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lemon, is the founder of an anti-Islam English Defense League and a prominent far-right figure in the UK. He is serving an 18-month prison sentence after being found guilty of contempt for repeatedly violating a court order relating to making libelous claims about a Syrian refugee, which he has continued to repeat despite the ruling. So now, again, from the article, you can tell where Forbes stands. Obviously, this is him getting arrested in Canada. I believe, Rob, go ahead and play the clip.
Yeah, this is a while ago.
You got volume?
You got an outstanding
How long ago was this, Rob?
That's one outstanding what? Yep, outstanding immigration warrant. We'll talk about it in the vehicle, okay?
I think people thought it was actually recent, but it might have been several months ago.
June 24th.
Okay, so this is a year ago. So now,
No.
He's been in jail, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, he's in jail right now in UK.
Really?
Is he
Right
or
now.
is he not?
He's in jail, and they're saying that he might be in solitary confinement again because they don't like him. They hate him.
What is he charged with? Do we know?
Well, I think it was he contempt of court, if I believe, because it had something to do with the silenced documentary. If I had to guess.
Vinny, what are your thoughts on the story?
Well, I mean, because your question initially was who is Tommy Robinson, Pat? Like, and if we think about it, the guy is exposing something that was happening. The UK grooming scandal. For those people that don't, if you don't mind, could I give them a little brief background? So, for you guys that don't know, vulnerable young girls, Tom, I think me and you talked about it, Tommy, often from disadvantaged backgrounds, were systematically exploited and abused by organized groups predominantly consisting of Pakistani Muslim men, okay? These cases were in towns like Rotherham, Rockdale, Telford. They exposed systematic failures in law enforcement and social services, and authorities accused of turning a blind eye to avoid being labeled racist or culturally insensitive, all right? In Rotherham alone, there's an estimated 1,400 children were subjected to abuse between the late 80s to 2013. The J Report published in 2014, and they brought these abuses to light. He's been opening his mouth. In regard, did you see the Silence documentary? Did any of you guys see it?
Mm-hmm.
And you saw it. The guy is exposing this story of this kid who was in the school, and Tommy Robinson gets all this undercover equipment and goes into the school, talks to teachers, talks to parents, talks to janitors and all this stuff, and they all corroborated the story that this Syrian kid was in fact the problem. He was the problem. He was treating girls like that and all that type of stuff. And then, Robbie, did I send you the video of Tommy Robinson? Because just to give you guys some stats, just a little stats that people get pissed off, migrants, okay, are 3.5 times more likely to be arrested for sex crimes in the UK than British citizens, okay? New figures released by the UK government have revealed that foreign nationals are twice as likely to be arrested for crimes compared to British citizens and 3.5 times more likely to be arrested for sexual offenses. These stats were compiled by the Centre for Migration Council using data from police forces for the Home Office of the Office of National Statistics. So he's pointing out a problem, and the cover up from all these all the leaders, all the police department, I don't know what it's called in England, but he's exposing the truth. All these people were arrested. He's pointing it out, and yet because they were complicit, they're all going after him. And they're trying to bury him because he talked about it. And this is him, the one before. Pat, this is him in 2011 exposing what this is an old ass. Look how young he looked. He was exposing it back then, but look at this liberal this interviewer trying to shut him up and saying white people do, rape people and stuff too. Go ahead and play this, Rob.
The only one who's been murdered by a Muslim gang, you probably don't, I do. Do you know any 15-year-old girls that you know that you've grown up with that have been raped or pimped? You don't. So I don't expect you to understand the issues.
These are all personal issues of yours.
Personal issues in towns and cities like mine that are happening, and they're not happening with the Sikh community, they're not happening with the Jewish community.
And indeed, they're not happening with most Muslims.
No, they're happening within the Islamic community. This is what I'm saying, that it's an Islamic problem. And when I'm just a simple person, so I'm just a normal person, but when I'm looking at, I have to look for where this hatred's coming from.
So are you seriously suggesting there aren't white drug dealers and there aren't white gangs?
Of course I'm not, no. But
Sikh gangs or any other kind of...
No, I'm not, but I'm saying some of these specific issues are coming from the Islamic community, solely the Islamic community. Terrorists wanting to blow us up, constant hostile activity towards our youth, all these problems, and from sitting back, there's got to be something it's coming from. None of the other communities are spreading it.
He's trying to point out a fact.
We're a symptom of the problem. The English Defence League are a
You're
symptom.
claiming that community is spreading it. Actually, what we're talking about
Members of the
here...
community.
Yes, exactly, as you could talk about members of the white community doing all sorts of atrocious
And then the
things.
last one, Pat, there's one, and Rob, I sent you of that older gentleman telling a story. It has gotten so bad in England, I don't think you've seen this. You're not going to believe this. And the people at home, you're going to be shocked if you haven't seen this already. It's an older gentleman, Rob, a little bit lower. Keep going. That guy right there. So he's, a woman here screams. She calls the police. The police show up. They check the neighbors, and they find a 13-year-old girl naked and drunk. You guys will not believe who they arrest. Pat, you have to listen to this. Play this.
And at 2:30 in the morning, the next morning, a woman on the other side of Rotherham had picked up the phone and dialed 999 because she'd heard a young girl screaming in the house next door. Police had gone round to the house. They found this 13-year-old girl with another young girl. She was almost completely naked. She was blind drunk, and she was with 7 adult Pakistani men.
7 guys.
She was drunk and leery. And South Yorkshire Police arrested the 13-year-old girl for being drunk and disorderly. They took her back to the station, put her in the cells, eventually charged her, and she was convicted. They didn't even question the men as to why they were in a house with a 13-year-old girl who was nearly naked.
So here's the thing. My question is, why the protection? Why the protection? Because it's obvious who's doing it. You should see the police report. I couldn't even send it to Rob because of the nature. You would get sick to your stomach as a father reading some of these cases of these Pakistani guys. Why can't you say what it is? Tommy Robinson is saying that it is a problem that these Pakistani Muslim men, okay, and he said like 30% of men that are involved in these gang rapes are called Muhammad. I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings. Like, what's the #1 name in the UK for the past couple years?
Well,
it's Muhammad.
The #1 baby name, new baby
for boys.
Muhammad.
Okay,
in the UK, it's not Henry or Charles
or Noah. Noah was
or Frederick.
Noah was none. But here's my thing, Pat. 2 questions. Why is it racist for pointing out what is happening? #1. #2, why the cover-up? Why the cover-up, Tom, from these people that are in charge that don't want to come out and say it? Just say what it is. Say what's doing it.
Well, I think it's pretty... So if you take Tommy Robinson and you take other reports that are out there, you come to this conclusion. You're like, why? It certainly appears that these folks are being enabled and there's prosecutions not happening. So why is there not an investigation? Why is there not prosecutions? And, you get really nervous about it because you're like, is there one group or one neighborhood that's being, kind of just, whatever? That seems kind of odd to me,
Is that weird? England's cooked, by the way. You want to talk about messages from Canadians? You should see... Bro,
you know what's a weird thing that happened yesterday? By the way, which clip is this, Rob? Is this a different story, similar to what?
Yeah, similar to what Vinny's saying. Different father who had to contact the police 200 different times to try and get help after his daughter was being gang raped, according to Tommy Robinson, by a group of Muslim men.
And this is him with Jordan Peterson that he's having a conversation with.
Yes.
Okay, so now watch this. Did you hear what Andrew Tate announced yesterday?
No.
Okay, if you go to Andrew Tate's Twitter account, Rob, if you go to Andrew Tate's Twitter account, Andrew Tate, which is very interesting on the mix of events, He is announcing he's running for Prime Minister of UK. Okay, and the party is called BRUV, B-R-U-V.
Yes,
okay,
bruv.
If you can go a little bit lower, keep going a little bit lower on just to show the previous tweets. He breaks down what he's about. If you can just go a little bit lower, keep going. He breaks down on what he says. There's a few. Keep going down. I'm trying to see which one it is.
Assimilation, integrity.
Yeah, I mean, what he's talking about, keep going until you see where he talks about what the issue is. That it? I think that's the one right there. In the majority Filipino areas of UK, must look and feel like British. In majority Indian areas of the UK, it must and look, feel like British. In majority Jews, it must. In majority African, show more. Immigrate, expect to adapt to British culture, no matter how small the norm. We like quiet Sunday mornings. Problem, leave. You respect British culture, standards of hygiene and social norms. You operate within our parameters. Multiple complaints of the contrary, visa revoked. You do not belong your own culture. You do not bring your own culture. Your culture already has a home. Ours does too, and it's Great Britain. If you miss the culture of your host nation, go home. By the way, the reason why this is interesting, he converted to Islam about a year ago, year and a half ago, May. May of last year when we went
atheist Christian.
Yeah. So and Andrew is a guy who's a stats guy, who's a data guy. Now, of course, you know, he has said a lot of different things, and he's called Islam the last true religion on the planet, and he said a bunch of different things about it. His brother is still a Christian, Tristan, so they're kind of going through it together. But when you go through this phase and you look at stats, the question is a very simple. What Tommy is posing, the questions he's asking is, debate it.
Yep.
Debate the data. Debate the stats. Debate. You can sit there, if you're a Muslim, you can say, yes, we're winning, we're taking over. Yeah, you're right. You are. Guess what? UK allowed you to do it. Props to the religion of Islam for being able to infiltrate once the financial capital of the world, Great Britain. We're not talking about anybody. Great Britain. Great. The Great Britain. How many countries start off with saying, we're the great United States, the Great Britain, right? Okay. So props to them for infiltrating, but guess what? This is the byproduct of being too naive and saying, yeah, it's okay, being too tolerant. Now you experience this. And the most beautiful thing about what's going on over there, and it's so tragic when you hear stories like this with the kids, but the most incredible thing that's happening right now is people who were once supportive of it are now saying, whoa, listen, you crossed the line. This is a little bit too much. This was not the plan. Now you're crossing the line. Now we got to figure something out here. So I'm kind of glad Tommy's getting the eyeballs that he's getting. I want to also play the opposite side of what Pierce said about him, and even Tommy retweeted what Pierce said about him, Rob. If you have the clip of what Pierce said, this is the one. You were on the show yesterday. Just put him up real quick to have Pierce say a couple words about him. Go for it.
I've watched Silence. I'm in it. He has a go at me, which is fine, because I was on Good Morning Britain at the time talking about this. Here's the problem. He repeats in the film a series of things which are lies. That's why he's been found in contempt of court, and that's why he's been put in prison. And the reason we know he's lying is that he was sued by the Syrian refugee in a court, and a judge in a very lengthy verdict and conclusion, which I read in full. And I recommend, by the way, that you and everybody else watching this goes away and takes the time to read the full judgment from the judge. All 5 of the witnesses that Robinson produced in court were discredited by the judge. He said they're not credible. He said a lot of them are making stuff up completely. The attempt by Robinson to portray the Syrian refugee boy as the villain, not the victim, was a lie. The boy who was accused of bullying him was thrown out of the school because of his previous prior record and this incident.
This is what prompted Musk to say, you haven't had an upgrade for a while. And he said, why don't we do a podcast and help me get upgraded? Adam, your thoughts on the story?
Well, listen, Tommy Robinson is just a symptom of an overall problem right there, and that is basically mass immigration that's happening around the UK. I mean, 10 years ago when they started talking about Brexit, this was an issue that a lot of people in the UK were talking about. I've told this before. My ex was from Wales, whose family lived in London. And the first time I went to London, I thought that I'd be eating tea and crumpets all the time. Turns out I was almost under Sharia law. It was pretty interesting. So Andrew Tate does have a point, and I respect the fact that he has an opinion. And there's some things that he says that I don't agree with. But as Ronald Reagan once said, someone you agree with 80% of the time is a friend and an ally, not a 20% enemy. So I do agree with Andrew Tate. And what we're talking about goes back to exactly what PBD was talking about the very first segment on this discussion. These are globalists versus nationalists. Every nation has their culture. Every nation has their tradition. Every nation came from something. There's no reason that you should have to abandon all your culture, all your tradition, everything that you are to basically have someone run amok and take over your country. So Andrew Tate is from what city in the UK, if you recall? He's from Luton. You know who else is from Luton? Tommy Robinson. So they've had some discussions. They think they've met up before. I think they've been friends, or at least have done some content together. But this, to me, actually comes down to one thing. You know, I live in Miami. Miami's a very massive melting pot. We have little Havana, where all the Cubans live. We have little Haiti, where all the Haitians live. We have Bal Harbor, where all the Jews live. There's all these different pockets. PBD is from Glendale, where the Armenians are. I go to San Antonio.
Watch
that's
your
all.
language.
I'm sorry,
Watch it, homie.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I didn't know.
We all know.
was
We
in
all know that
Miami.
every city has their little sort of pockets. I was just in Brooklyn. There's so many Jews in Brooklyn. But here's the difference. It comes down to one word: assimilation. Everyone has to at some point assimilate and understand that you're living in, whether it's the UK, under a British country. British country. In America, you have one rule: love America or get out. You know, it was. He said on the other day, it was our friend that you had on the show, Douglas Murray, said America is the only country you could live in, and that you can basically bash America, say that you hate America, and then not leave. Any other country that you bash, you want to get the hell out of there. But the assimilation thing, here's the difference. All these different types of cultures and all these different types of people, they want to come in and eventually assimilate, whether it's the first generation or the second generation. The problem that Vinny is pointing out with some of these, our friends in the Muslim world, is they don't want to assimilate. They want to infiltrate, they want to populate, and then they want to dominate. And that's exactly what Tommy Robinson is pointing out. If you want to come in and embrace British values or American values or Canadian values, come on in. That's what this part is. That's what we're here for. But if you want to basically set up your own version of Sharia law in our country after fleeing a country that has failed, whether it's Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Afghanistan, whatever it is.
You know, it's interesting. So here's when I had, who was Douglas Murray? When I had Douglas Murray on, I said, where is the data? He says, UK stopped reporting on data a long time ago. Remember when Norway, Dominic Tarzinski was here and we said, we don't let one Muslim in, and he was explaining how they have the lowest in EU, lowest rape, lowest unemployment, lowest, all these things Poland, he was talking about. Poland. Yeah. What state did I say? What country?
Norway.
No,
That's
Poland,
our other friend, Poland. Yes.
But Norway just did this report, Rob. If you can pull up this report, Rob, from Norway that Humberto sent in, breaking down where the crime is coming from. All you have to do is track the data. This is not hard to do. If UK really wanted to track the data to see where it's coming from, you would be able to look at it and say, yeah, what's the problem? Yeah. Why don't you track the data? What are you worried about tracking the data? Because here's Norway, okay? Here's indictments for violence per 1,000 inhabitants. Lowest is who? People from Norway. Then you got Pakistan, Syria, Russia, Afghanistan, Eritrea, which is like a country in Africa, Iraq, Ethiopia, Somalia. Okay.
Somalia. You have almost a 50% chance being a victim of crime.
Yeah. So, but guess what this does? Now, what if this said U.S.? What if this said Brazil? What if this said Spain? Great.
Yes.
Then you address that.
Exactly.
But it's not saying that. It's saying Pakistan, Syria, Russia, Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iraq, Ethiopia, Somalia. What common trend do you see there and a pattern? What is it?
They're coming
What's the
from
common
the
pattern?
Middle East or North Africa.
Is the religion Christianity?
It is not.
Is it Catholicism?
No.
Is it Scientology? No. Is it Judaism?
That's not
is
what
it Mormonism? Is it Muslim? What is it? When you see that data, then you have to ask yourself, what's going on here? There is not a single country, like, you know, the H-1B visa debate that they're having over here?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying, go back to your country, you're not American, all this other stuff. I actually understand that argument. Mm-hmm. Because, and let me explain what I mean by it, for me to understand the American that is worried about a guy from Iran that's coming to go back to your country. Percentages are what? If I get this many people that are coming from there, my experience has been, you know, this, guess what? I'm going to automatically put you in a box that you're going to be like them. Totally understand that part. I mean, you have to kind of look at that part. And then you have to create a certain filtering system to bring the best in. If there is no proper filtering system, then it's a shit show. Then U.S. turns into UK. Then they ought to be completely worried about who's coming in and who's not. This is why the illegal immigration on the border, they're calling all of them asylum. It's like, give me a flipping break, right? So UK is a perfect case study of what America should be studying to make sure it doesn't happen in America. You got all these guys, the social media influencers, the younger guys, that on Twitter, on X, on YouTube, that they're talking about Islam and Muslim, and they're getting into the heads of a lot of these younger guys that say, man, maybe that's the way to go. Maybe that's the way to go. And then some of the stuff that you hear about the way they look at kids, underage, well, because of this, it's justified if somebody this. The other day, one guy said, well, if you show too much of skin and you get raped, you kind of deserve that because that's
you're promoting
it. And what is this, Rob?
This is Mohammed Hajib. I believe he was on the podcast before.
Pronounce his name, Chris. Hijab.
Okay. This is him.
He's not been on a podcast before. No. He almost got on the podcast, but we never had him on the podcast.
Now he's with our old friend Sneeko.
And Sneeko's been with you. What's he saying?
He's defending Mohammed is sex with children and calls pedophilia relative.
That's our guy. Mohammed, go ahead.
Is that from that part that you want to play?
The whole clip, you need the context.
Okay, go ahead.
No, we don't think there's any problem with it at all. We think that it's just because we have a different idea of what it means to be a child, which can be tracked historically. But now, if the situation has changed, we'd say that the general principle in Islam is, you can do what you kind of want, so long as, I'm not going to say you can do what you want so long as you harm it. You can marry whomever you want to marry, so long as it doesn't cause them harm, physical and psychological. So, for example, if I marry a 100-year-old woman, or Sneeko, if you marry with your tank top a 100-year-old woman, and you get involved with her intimately, she might die. I mean, she might have some kind of health problem. So we would say that, well, if you were to be intimate with a 14-year-old or 13-year-old who's got huge hips and huge breasts and huge body, I mean, quite frankly, we would say it's not going to have the same effect medically. I mean, no one can make the argument. But in these countries where we live in now, one is legal and one is illegal.
Is this guy trying to justify having sex with a 13-year-old girl? Is this what he's trying to do right now?
Adam, you have to listen to the end. Okay. He's not finished.
Marry a 100-year-old woman, but you can marry that girl that's, you can't be. You're a pedophile if you go for the girl that's got the hips. And once again, pedophilia is very relative.
Very relative. And I'm just
Hold
reading.
On. Is that the end?
Yeah, he's
okay. So
let Vinny go.
And guys, and let's just go back. Because Jesus Christ, what I'm saying, we're Christians, and you have to say what it is. Jesus Christ spread love, spread peace, spread all that type of stuff. Was he a virgin, Tom? Jesus Christ?
Yes.
Okay. He's treated women great. If we're going to go according to many Islamic historical sources, including the Hadith, collections of the Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, the Prophet Muhammad was betrothed to Asia when she was 6 years old, and the marriage was consummated when she was 9 years old. I'm just throwing out facts. This guy's name is Muhammad. That's what he's basically preaching, is that this is that type of mindset. And I don't agree with it 1,000%. I think trying to sit there and trying to say that sleeping pedophilia is relative is absolutely bonkers, okay? It's bonkers. So then when it's on a mass scale and you're seeing these Pakistani guys just treating these women like whatever, and I see them catching them in their interview, and they're like, well, it is what it is. That's their attitude, it is what it is, because they're taught that. And that's it right there. If you want proof, married a 9-year-old girl, which is kind of...
That's ChatGPT?
That's ChatGPT.
Is that from ChatGPT?
Yes.
Can you read that, Rob?
Yes, according to traditional Islamic sources.
What did you ask, by the way?
I asked, according to Islam, did Muhammad marry Aisha at 6 years old? And it says yes. Aisha was one of the wives of Prophet Muhammad, who was betrothed to him when she was around 6 years old.
What does the word betrothed mean? What does betrothed?
Given to him.
Like given. Okay. Right. When she was around 6 years old, and a marriage was consummated when she was around 9 years old. This is based on reports on ideal literature, which are records of saying the most commonly cited source of information of hadith, considered two of the most authentic collections of Islamic traditions. I mean, we've read this and we've seen this, right? But the biggest part about this is, okay, so guess what? Somebody reads this You read this, what do you say? That's freaking insane.
Of course.
But what if somebody reads this in Iraq? What if somebody reads this in Afghanistan? What if somebody reads this in, pick one of those countries, and they say, what's the big deal?
Of course.
So guess what? Live there.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I agree.
Live there.
Yeah.
Live there. Why come to a place like America that doesn't believe in your views here?
Because your attitude is we're going to take over. That's
Yeah.
the attitude is
Well-
we're going to make you guys. Because remember that the guy who was the guy from Canada, Rob. Remember he's like, we're having babies. We're gonna like bragging that they're going to take over. But I'm sorry to give you a heads up, bro. America doesn't play that shit. Don't play that over here.
By the way, Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, well, look, this is actually going to be a little counterintuitive. I have a lot of Muslim friends. I have a lot of Arab friends, Lebanon, Egypt. I have a lot of Saudi friends. What we want is to have common sense, moderate, level-headed people of all shapes, sizes, and religions that love America, love the country we're in. Now, not everyone is going to fit into a box. So I don't want to demonize anyone of any particular religion, especially even my Muslim friends, because we need to bring them to the table to say, listen, guys, we need to stamp out one word, radical people with radical ideologies and actual literal interpretations of the Quran from a book from 700 BC, AD. But the reality is this. We're talking about a small percentage of radical people, radical jihadists. But there's 2 billion Muslims in the world? So what's 1% of 2 billion people? 20 million people? So if 20 million people are completely radicalized or jihadists, this is what we have to deal with. And I've said before, as much as we are concerned with this in America, as much as they're concerned in Israel, as much as they're concerned in the UK and in the EU, the 80% of people that die from radical Islamic terrorism are Muslims. So this is something that they're going to have to deal with in their side of the world as well as our side of the world. And hopefully common sense will prevail.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing about this, a few years ago, you were walking on eggshells about this topic. 2 years ago, people were not even 2 years ago, a year ago, people were conflicted, okay? For Andrew Tate to be saying what he's saying right now about Great Britain, you don't believe in our way of living, go back home. I'm sorry, Andrew. You're talking specifically to a community. And he's one of the greatest communicators around the world. For him to say something like that, he's just putting it out there that this is how I feel. So, and for the youth, young men, how much influence did some of these YouTubers or content creators have over young men? A lot. And now numbers and data is coming up. Whoa. Got to be kind of be careful with what's going on over here right now. This is good. Time reveals bad policies. Time reveals bad ideas. And that's exactly what's taking place right now. Our merch team got a lot of requests of people saying, can we get some of these stickers and decals that you guys got so we can also put it on our iPads and different things? So they went to work and they got Zoom. Can you zoom in, Rob, into those stickers right there?
Decals.
So the decals, you got the Valuetainment logo, you got the allegedly, you got Only the Paranoid Survive, you got Future Looks Bright, you got the BizDoc, Words Talk, Number Scream, you got the PBD Podcast, Angry Patriot. Even Saucecast made it, an Unusual Suspect made it with the stickers. So how do you get it?
Nice.
Today, new hats that have been, some of the hats that are on the BOGO list now, you buy one, you get one free. These hats that we have, the ones that are on this list, Rob, if you can go down the black, the white, we added a few new ones to it as well. Any of these, you order one, you'll get one for free. And first 100, I believe it is, who place the order of buy one, get one free, you will get one of those stickers. Add it to your, order as well. Go to vtmerch.com, order Future Looks Bright. Last year, we had over 120,000 individuals that bought Future Looks Bright gear. 120,000 pieces that were sold last year. What's interesting is just 3 years ago, I believe, the number was 600. And last year went to 120,000. We wanted 1 million people wearing the Future Looks Bright gear. Nowadays, when we go all over the place, we're seeing people, they're sending a bunch of different pictures. Kids reading Academy books, kids having the gear on. Ladies now wearing it. My wife finally getting some merch for the ladies as well out there. But place one of the orders, buy one, get one free. Get the stickers on your way, and then post them. Laptops, iPads, whatever else you want to put it on. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.